Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Philippine Administrative Thoughts and Institutions subject. And I will be your professor, Mr. Kip Anthony A. Ramos. And for this session, we will be talking about the Philippine administrative system, historical and cultural roots. Okay, as we discuss this topic, what we will be achieving with our learning outcomes will be the following. So first is to explain what is Philippine administrative system, its history and development through time. We must also be able to discuss the components of PAS and its legal basis, illustrate the structure of the Philippine administrative system, and discuss the structure of the Philippine administrative system. So we will first discuss the term PAS or the Philippine Administrative System. So it has been said that PAS refers to a network of public organizations with specific goals, policies, structures, resources, and even programs. So simply put, if we're talking about administrative system, this is a network of public organizations that are being tasked of achieving specific goals, policies, structures, resources, and even programs. So if we're talking about PAS, of course, there are certain targets, there are certain points, there are certain goals that need to be achieved by your government. And in order for it to be achieved, of course, you will be needing public organization. So as we discuss further about PAS, you will know that in PAS, there are different public organizations and institutions that are working together so that they will be able to accomplish and attain the goals that has been set. Okay? Second, it includes the processes of and interaction between and among these public organizations. So as I have mentioned earlier, since it is a network, nagtutulungan po sila, nag-uusap-usap po sila, and there is a process in which these public organizations will be collaborating and they will be helping one another in order for them to achieve the goal. Third, these organizations are constituted to implement, help formulate, monitor, or assess public policies in order for them, no, yung ating mga institutions to attain yung kanila pong ninanais or yung kanila pong mga goals. Also, it covers this organization's relationship with their immediate public in contact as well as their reaction to or how the greater social, political, and economic environment within which they operate affect them. So simply put, if we're talking about PAS, of course, there's a relationship towards their environment, towards their citizens, towards those people, syempre, na maapektuhan ng kanila pong operation. So simply put, if we're dealing with this, of course, no, kailangan natin makipag-usap dun sa beneficiary, kailangan natin makipag-usap dun sa citizens. And traditionally, the PAS refers to the executive branch, all offices and instrumentalities thereof, local government units, government-owned and controlled corporations, and chartered institutions such as state colleges and universities. So, if we're talking about PAS, of course, no, karaniwan natin na binibigyan ng pansin dito ay yung executive department as mentioned, simply because they are being tasked to implement such programs and such laws in which it will benefit, of course, our citizens or our constituents. So, as we move further later, you will know kung bakit marami tayong mga offices, ano, at saka kung ano-ano itong mga offices na ito. All right. So, in dealing with the history and development of the PAS, of course, it's imperative to go back muna, no, kung saan ba nagsimula itong ano no itong PAS natin. At syempre ito ay yung panahon ng Spanish colonial period. So, first, the Spanish colonial government introduced the bureaucracy as a social institution consisting mainly of Spaniards. This bureaucracy was distinct from the masses of the people by their race, their special calling, and their class. So, yung bureaucracy na tinatawag natin, of course, nagsimula ito sa panahon pa lang ng mga Espanyol. Nagsimula ito sa panahon na sinakop tayo na kung saan ang bureaucracy nga ay isang ano no, ginawang isang institusyon na kung saan depende sa iyong lahi, depende sa iyong calling at depende sa iyong klase o no ay doon ka mapapabilang kung pag-usapan natin of course yung ano no yung bureaucracy during that time because this is a social institution. And this colonial bureaucracy had a fatal law. Ano daw po yung fatal flaw rather no? What is its fatal flaw? Of course, the private and personal interests of the members led them to subvert the declared colonial administration. Kaya nga kung mapapansin niyo maraming nagmalabis during nung panahon na sinasakop tayo ng mga Espanyol, hindi ba? It's simply because instead na pamunluan tayo ng maayos no as a colony, of course, inuna ng mga tao na nasa bureaucracy, no, nasa colonial bureaucracy, yung kanila pong interest at saka yung mga personal nilang pangangailangan. That's the second. Third will be the moral corruption of its members was the fundamental weakness of the colonial bureaucracy, according to Corpus in 1957. And according to Corpus, the colonial administration was bankrupt in constructive policy, as the bureaucrats were corrupt in their motivations and either incompetent or oppressive in their actions. So people, as we discussed the colonial bureaucracy during that time, according to Corpus, noong 1957, hindi ito naging maayos, hindi ito naging maganda. Yung polisiya na kanilang pinopromote is something na hindi makakinabang talaga ang taong bayan. Bakit daw po? Kasi babalikan natin yung binabanggit kanina. It is the fatal flaw of this colonial bureaucracy in which yung private and personal interest ng mga taong namumuno no ng bureaucracy during that time ay siyang nasusunod, regardless if they are competent, regardless if they are talaga swak doon sa posisyon, hindi na siya tinitignan for as long as makita ka halimbawa na na Espanyol at saka kaya mong mamuno, no, whether masama or mabuti ito, it's okay during that time. Now, according to Endriga, syempre ito daw yung mga karaniwan na ito daw yung mga karaniwan na dahilan kung bakit daw po nagkaroon ng ng flaws doon sa colonial bureaucracy. Ano daw po mga kadahilanan according to Endriga? First, Spain's colonial objectives, which left much room for the bureaucrats to exercise discretion on how they would interpret or implement policies enunciated in Spain. So ano daw po ibig sabihin po nito? No? Ibig sabihin nito na yung mga tao na nanunungkulan during the time ng colonial bureaucracy ng mga Espanyol na siyang nanakop sa atin, no, instead na meron silang standard na sinusundan, actually ibinibigay po yung discretion sa kanila. Ibinibigay kung paano nila i-interpret ito at paano po nila paano po nila i-implement according to their own understanding. And of course, since we're dealing with discretion, alam naman natin na maaaring yung pananaw ko ay hindi maging pananaw ng isang tao, maaaring magkaroon ng pagkakaiba sa sa kanila pong pag-implement. Kaya medyo delikado during that time. Second, the philosophy regarding public office of the Spanish regime na kung saan during that time na ang public office ay simply para lang pa sa mga Espanyol at siyang mga nananakop. Third, the dependence of the colonial office in Manila on Spain. Ano po ibig sabihin? Kasi wala naman talaga tayong gobyerno during that time, no? During that time, ang bureaucracia ay ay dumedepende sa kung ano ang sabihin ng Espanya. Na siyang dumedepende kung ano man ang mga desisyon ng mga tao na nasa Spain. Kaya talaga noong time na yon, instead na makapag-desisyon ng maayos, syempre may mga bagay na hindi rin naman alam yung Espanya during that time. Kaya ayan, naging flaw siya in terms of colonial bureaucracy. It's highly centralized organization na siyang sinusunod nga natin kung nasaan yung kung ano yung tindig ng Espanya, siya rin magiging tindig natin. And of course, the negativism of the regime against the Filipinos na hindi daw po sila karapat-dapat, of course, na maglingkod even doon sa colonial bureaucracy na tinatawag. Now, pagdating ng ating pagdating ng ating mga mananakop galing naman ng Amerika or yung mga natin yung American during the American colonial period, of course, it has been said that American expansion was described to be one undertaken in the absence of a constant purpose or a specific colonial objective, no? Hindi daw alam kung saan daw papupunta ito. Okay, so there were explicit interests as indicated by business, church groups, and even military strategies. Yet, there was no consensus on how the colonial venture was to be undertaken. Hindi nila alam saan ba patutungo ito, itong pananakop natin. Saan ba patutungo itong saan ba patutungo itong ginagawa na bureaucracia during that time. And of course, the civil service during the American colonial period was a non-political organization. It had a broader coverage as it applied to all positions in the civil administration, insular and provincial, as well as the municipal government of Manila. It was centralized also in terms of organization. So people, balik tanaw lang tayo, once we're talking about centralized organization, syempre meron tayong dinedependahan na central government. Karaniwan sa atin, dito sa panahon natin ngayon, that will be syempre yung ating national government. Okay? So nakadepende daw po doon yung organization during that time. Now, pagdating po ng early republic, from the American colonial period, syempre nagkaroon tayo ng pagkakataon na mabigyan ng ng kalayaan noong 1946, and that is during the time ng mga Espanyol daw, So with that, of course, the country had just gone through the Second World War as we all know, So yun yung time na na time na paano pa lang sa atin bigay ng kalayaan. And of course, as I have mentioned, in terms of dealing with kung paano nga tayo nag-cope up with the Second World War II, no, Second World War II tuloy, no, Second World War, of course, no, pinag-usapan natin dito kung paano ba tayo nakaget over muna doon sa physical destruction at saka economic decline brought about yung mga kaguluhan nga during that time. Okay, so ito yung characteristic ng early republic before. Of course, it was vulnerable to nepotism. Despite an order that prohibited the appointment of relatives, this was unenforceable during this period. So people, if we're talking about nepotism, syempre ito yung practice na kung saan ang nilalagay natin sa pwesto ay ano no, yung mga taong kamag-anak natin. Kung kayo halimbawa ay ano no, kung kayo halimbawa ay boss or ano no, or meron kayong katungkulan at inassign at inappoint mo yung kamag-anak mo, that's nepotism. On the other hand, pag kaibigan mo naman, no, yung ina-assign mo, that's cronyism. Okay? Next, the spoil system in the civil service was another serious defect. With the constitutional provisions that the civil service shall embrace all branches and subdivisions of the government, it was expected that the merit system would prevail in most of the public bureaucracy. No? So, ayun nga, kagaya ng sinasabi natin kanina, no? So, bukod doon sa usapin natin pagdating sa ano, no, pagdating sa nepotismo, isa pa tong spoil system na ano, no, na nagiging problema. So, ano po bang ano no? Ano po bang ibig sabihin nitong ano no, nitong spoil system? Yung ginagawa naman dito, halimbawa, no, yung isang political party ay ano no, ang napanalo nila halimbawa yung posisyon ng president. So itong si president, syempre mag-give back sa kanyang party, no? Magbibigay ng spoils kung tawagin. At i-assign niya ito doon sa ano no, syempre doon sa mga kapartido niya at makasama niya during the ano no, during the campaign. And with that, another serious defect ito simply because ang ina-expect natin ay merit system ang meron tayo. Ibig sabihin, napopromote, no? Or nabibigyan ng trabaho yung isang tao simply because karapat-dapat siya at siya talaga yung nararapat doon. Ano? Sige po. Number 3. The bureaucracy seemed to have entered a period of normalcy in that public charges of corruption committed by government officials seem to be part of the regular fare of newspapers. The public appeared to have accepted the accusations of corruption raised against bureaucrats as being part of the normal scheme of things. Na siya nakakalungkot people ano kasi nagsimula pa lang nung ano nung early republic, tinanggap na natin ang normal ay pagiging kurakot at hindi yung pagiging hindi kurakot. Na siyang dapat nagiging ano no, nagiging batayan natin na dapat ito yung mga bagay na babaguhin natin. Yun nga no, so kung mababalikan natin, ang issue ng korupsyon ay nanggaling pa no doon sa panahon ng early republic. So tinanggap na ng mga tao during that time kasi lagi sinasabi lahat naman daw ng opisyales ay ano no, lahat naman daw ng opisyales ay corrupt, no? Ganun doon nagsimula yung ganung pananaw. Number 4, an element of the environment that affected all government officials, whether elective or appointed, was the role of the media in the peaceful correction of government defects in general. So the American colonial administration brought with it the rule and the practice that the conduct of government employees and officers could be the legitimate subject of public inquiry and comment, no? So as mentioned kanina, of course, no, even naman ngayon hindi ba malaki ang ano no, malaki ang role ng media, no? Pero syempre sa panahon natin ngayon, nag-evolve pa into even social media, no, na siyang nagiging ano na malaking part in terms of dito correction pagdating po sa ating mga government officials or members of your bureaucracy. So number 5, two features of the bureaucracy in 1955, corpus attributed to Spanish influence. Ano daw po ito? Siyempre yung centralized organization na tayo ay nagbabatay doon sa isang ano na central government or national government. And of course, the administration of laws which are based on the civil law system na siya ini-enforce daw po ng Spanish bureaucracy. And then number 6, the strong influence of the American colonial system was also very apparent in the Philippine bureaucracy in the during the mid 1950s. For one thing, most of the laws of the bureaucracy then were still those laid down during the American colonial period. Okay. Next, during also the early republic, the bureaucracy served as an instrument of social change and innovations when it was placed under Filipino control. Unlike before, kasi nga, di ba, yung ating experience ay ang namumuno sa atin ay yung mga colonizers natin or yung colonial government. Pero during that time, of course, no, nagkaroon na ng touch ng pagiging Filipino simply because na-place na to under Filipino control. Okay? Unlike the Spanish bureaucracy, the Philippine bureaucracy did not constitute a distinct social class or hub class attributes, no? Na siyang hanggang ngayon naman, wala naman tayong tinitingnan talaga na social class. Number 9, although the bureaucracy in 1955 was important, it was not independent power in Filipino politics. Instead, it was highly vulnerable to attacks from politicians, from the executive and legislative departments of or branches of government who meddled with the merit system. Kasi nga, di ba, kung mapapansin nyo ngayon, kahit naman talaga, no, ang katotohanan natin, may mga pagkakataon talaga na ang desisyon, halimbawa, no, ng mga administrators natin in the Philippine administrative system ay iba doon sa gustong mangyari ng ano no ng ating mga elected officials na impluwensyahan pa rin. Pag sinabi halimbawa ni mayor, sinabi halimbawa ni ano no, sinabi halimbawa ni governor, ni president, no most likely maaapektuhan yung desisyon daw ng mga tao within the PAS. Okay? Now, pasok tayo doon sa rehimen naman ng ano no ng authoritarian no siyang ano no, syempre alam naman natin na si Ferdinand Marcos Sr. no. Syempre, nung in-invoke niya yung powers that has been placed by the Constitution ano, dineclare niya nung panahon na yun yung ano no yung martial law at under martial law, of course, i-abolish yung Congress at saka yung mga political leaders na naging dahilan no na naging na umuupog sa gustong mangyari ay inaprehend niya nga no. So during that time syempre ito yung sinasabi na ano no na bagong lipunan no nung panahon ni Marcos Sr. So during that time syempre ang kanilang ano no ang kanilang gustong mangyari ay magkaroon ng revolution from the center or the central government. Okay, ano daw po yung mga major structural changes sa kanila pong pinatupad during that time. So, decentralized national government functions to the extent necessary for improved administration by reducing the agencies under the office of the president. So take note lahat ng mga agencies karaniwan or yung mga agency na ano no nagpapatupad ng mga programa and mga proyekto ipinlace under the office of the president and kailangan during that time it has been ano no it has been said that 11 uniform administrative regions were created. Second, it standardized the organization and common operational activities of departments. 4 staff services were formed in each department for planning, finance and management, administration, and technical services. And it facilitated the preparation and execution of national development plans by creating what we call now as your National Economic and Development Authority or NEDA, no? Yung binabanggit din natin nakaraan na ano no, kay kanina na civil service na commission, actually ginawa niya itong 3-person commission coming from a single-headed civil service commission. It also decentralized yung personal functions to line departments, bureaus, and regional offices. And of course, ang kanyang ano no, ang kanyang pag-create sa career executive service as the highest level of government service during that time. So nung panahon na ito, of course, no, nung bumagsak yung rehimeng Marcos Sr., no, the bureaucracy was described as the following, no, interventionist in that government competed with the private sector, no, na hindi siya ano, no, hindi siya nakikipagtulungan actually, no. So in short, nakikipagkompetensya siya. Second, bloated bureaucracy. When you say bloated bureaucracy, marami mga personnel, marami mga taong hinahire na hindi naman kailangan sa government. So that's the second ano no characteristic. Third, corrupt and committed to serve only the interest of one family. No, yun naman yung usap-usapan since then. Highly centralized and of course inefficient. Now, nung pumasok no si Cory Aquino as the President of the Republic of the Philippines, she created Commission on Government Reorganization in which no ang kanyang pangunahing goal daw during that time is demarcosify. Ibig sabihin lahat ng mga pinagagawa ni Marcos Sr. during that time ay babaguhin, no? So in short, so during this time, no na-achieve daw ito through the following. Syempre, promotion of private initiative, decentralization, accountability, efficiency of frontline services, and cost effectiveness of operation. So syempre, as term na ina siya ng demokrasya, ang kanyang main goal during that time is to reform yung political institutions, including the civil service through redemocratization. Okay? So ito po, no? So during the time na ma-create yung 1987 Constitution, during the time of the 10th President Cory Aquino, ito po. So nagkaroon ng constitutional bodies na tinatawag na kung saan siyang nakapaloob sa Constitution at hindi siya basta-basta pwedeng i-abolish kasi nga that's part of the Constitution. So ano daw po itong mga ito? So we have the Civil Service Commission, the Commission on Election, and the Commission on Audit, no? So we also have mandated special bodies which are your Commission on Human Rights or the CHR, and the Office of the Ombudsman, which has the responsibility of investigating, of course, yung ma-erring na public officials na meron po tayo. Now, as mentioned kanina, no, kapag pinag-usapan natin yung PES, ang karaniwan dyan na pananaw is this is a, no, this would refer your executive branch or the executive department, no? So I apologize for this one, no? So that's only department. So this is the largest component of the executive branch of the government. So ano daw po yung mga kasama po rito? Marami po yan, ano? Syempre yung general government sector, agriculture, agrarian reform and environment sector, trade and industry sector, energy and infrastructure sector, culture, education and manpower sector, health and welfare sector, defense sector, science and technology sector, public order and safety sector, and local government sector, no? So napakarami kung mapapansin ninyo, no? It's simply because syempre ito yung largest component, no, ng ating ng ating executive branch. So ayan, meron din tayong tinatawag na mga GOCCs, no, na kung saan ang goal niya, mga kapatid, is to, of course, to generate fund and to generate profit for our government, because we all know that in dealing with government service, napakahalaga ng pagkakaroon ng pera, kasi without money, of course, wala tayong pang-sustento doon sa ating mga programa. So pinag-usapan natin yung mga GOCCs, of course, kailangan daw, no, na ito ay isang kumpanya na kung saan 51% of the capital stock ay nasa pagmamay-ari daw po ng government. Okay? So pwede rin naman na makialam dito people yung yung private individuals, pero kailangan yung pinakamalaking porsyento or more than half ng porsyento ng ng pagmamay-ari ng kumpanya ay nasa government. Now, in terms of local government units, of course, we have the syempre territorial and political subdivision of the state. No, sa Pilipinas, in our context, so meron tayong regions, no, kagaya limbawa ng Region 1, NCR, Region 2, Region 3, Region 4, so on and so forth. We also have the provinces, no? Sa kada region, syempre, meron tayong mga probinsya, kagaya halimbawa sa may halimbawa sa may Region 3, no? Sa may under Region 3, nandiyan ang Tarlac, nandiyan ang Pampanga, nandiyan ang Bulacan, no? So under provinces, of course, meron din tayong tatawag na cities and municipalities. So take note lang that if we're dealing with cities, syempre meron dalawa yan. We have the highly urbanized cities, kagaya ng mga cities sa Metro Manila, aside from Pateros. And of course, ayan, yung component cities na hindi pa siya independent doon sa province. Okay? So ano pinagkaiba ng component city at saka ng highly urbanized city? Yung component city, nakikinig pa rin siya at ina-align niya rin yung kanya pong yung kanya pong mga statutes or kanyang mga ordinances sa sinasabi po ng ng provincial government na siyang nasasakop. Kaya kung papapansin niyo sa Metro Manila, dahil mga HUCs ito, wala na pong no need for the governor. Kasi nga, ayan, lahat naman po ay independent naman for from yun nga yung utos ng province. Okay? Yung municipalities, syempre ito yung yung local government unit na mas maliit or mas mas mababa compared doon sa sa component cities. At yung pinaka maliit at pinakamababang sangay syempre or political subdivision natin ay tatawag po natin na barangay, no? So syempre in dealing with barangay, ito yung karaniwan na nakikita natin, no, on our day-to-day basis. Kaya nga mapapansin niyo mas personal ang usapin pagdating dito sa local government unit pagdating po sa barangay. Okay? And aside from that, yung state colleges and universities, for example, of course, no, meron tayo mga state colleges and universities dito kagaya ng PUP, no, ng PUP, of course, no, ano pa ba, PNU, and so on and so forth. So, yan ay yung mga sinasubsidize po ng national government. And of course, they are being considered as a corporate body, no, at fully fund ito ng national government at dinedetermine ng Philippine Congress kung magkano man ang i-allocate na budget po sa kanila. Okay? So that actually the end of our discussion about the historical roots, of course, ng ng PAS and syempre introduction to your PAS. So let me also grab this opportunity, everyone, to thank you for attending our session, and I hope to see you all again on the succeeding ones. So again, this is Mr. Kirp Anthony A. Ramos. See you on our succeeding sessions with your Philippine Administrative Thoughts and Institution subject.